Back during Hitman 2, I used to do monthly podcast things to check out live content and patch notes and stuff like that, and I'd like to continue doing that with Hitman 3. I'll try to keep these brief, but we'll see how that goes. Starting with the patch notes in February, I'll go over the highlights. The Silent Assassin HUD indicator now has a state for having been spotted by a camera. It's a good and much requested update that for some reason wasn't a part of the indicator in the first place. It won't make me like the Silent Assassin definition, but it is still a clear improvement in any case. In Berlin, the manhole exit was removed as it was causing several issues. I assume there was some complicated issue behind it that made it work differently from all other manhole exits, but this patch note really doesn't help anyone understand what it could have been. I don't think it's productive when people assume the devs are lazy for not fixing certain things, but in this case it's hard to blame people as the note definitely doesn't provide any better explanation. The Sapienza menu image has been updated to reflect the current lighting. Not sure if that's a good or a bad thing, as the current lighting in Sapienza is pretty horrendous, and this change could mean either that IO is happy with the way the lighting is, or they acknowledge that there is a problem. Side note, I'm sure there's already a bunch of videos where people compare Hitman 2 and 3 and 1 lightings, but I'm still considering making one myself. Let me know if you would like to see that. The Drushina sniper rifle from Siberia Sniper Mission no longer has wall piercing and shockwave ammo in the normal missions. The Drushina could pierce an infinite number of walls, making it much stronger than the original Jägersvein Lancer from Hitman 2016 before that one got nerfed into uselessness. It's a shame because even if the wall-piercing ammo didn't work well in the main game, the shockwave ammo sounded like it could have been a good addition. Not that I can confirm myself, because I never had the will to go through the grind that is Sniper Assassin. And finally, they list the inability to change which shoulder the camera follows as a known issue, but say that removing it was intentional. Again, this doesn't help anybody understand why the change was made. All I'm seeing is an awful change, and hearing that it's supposed to be awful as an explanation. Moving on to live content. The first things we got were 2 free escalations. The Baskerville Barney in Dartmoor had a nice theme of killing everyone in the family with accidents, but it still didn't feel like it benefited from being an escalation rather than just a normal contract. The Sinbad something in Dubai was a bit more interesting, as throwing knives at boxes is not something you do in other game modes, but for some reason in the final level the knife idea was dropped and it didn't feel like a fitting ending. Still, it was an alright escalation. Then there were 5 overpriced deluxe escalations, 3 of which technically came out in January, but I only got them recently, so I'll cover them here anyway. The Asmodeus Waltz in Dubai was the worst escalation so far. It could be replicated in contracts mode almost perfectly, but I don't know why you'd want to do that, as the spread out targets weren't fun to deal with anyway. The Percival Passage in Dartmoor also didn't do anything of interest, but the targets weren't as far apart, so it was at least better than Dubai. The Li Hong derivation in Chongqing was taking bits from the classic Li Hong story arc, and that carried it well. Sadly, level 3 felt completely unnecessary, but overall this was still one of the better escalations. That said, I'm a bit disappointed it exists, because I was hoping for some sort of small-scale reimagining of some of the Li Hong stuff, and this escalation heavily implies that we'll never see anything like that. The something whatever in Mendoza made decent use of emetic poisons and custom exit points. While it did also showcase that poisons can be buggy in certain situations, it was still one of the more enjoyable ones, I think. The Prolov Parable in Romania is probably the best escalation in the game so far, specifically because of level 2. Silent Assassin is very clearly off the table, and that allows it to be much more original than most escalations. Sadly, the final level is a letdown after Great Level 2. In general, I think the escalations have gotten better compared to Hitman 2, and I especially like how most of them have forced loadout and starting locations, so they have a bit more clearly defined challenge to them. But still, I think the level-based structure causes issues, and I absolutely would not recommend paying extra for the deluxe ones. Finally, the first elusive target came out, and it was a legacy one in Sapienza. The mission itself isn't the interesting part here, but rather the formula of elusive targets in general. Several months before release, IO stated that they were making some changes to the elusive target formula that they would reveal at a later date. Now that the first one is out and IO hasn't revealed anything, we can see for ourselves that nothing has been changed despite all the feedback IO has received. Time-gated content like this is exploiting people's fear of missing out, and I hope people don't just continue to accept them as they are. This is a practice that should be called out, because if it's ignored, you can bet that it's not going to get any better. One last note. Almost a month after release, PC players were finally able to import their Hitman 1 and 2 locations into Hitman 3. Massive props to the people who made it happen, no props for the communication. Sometimes plans don't work out and you can't fix them, it sucks, but that's life. What you can still do is to admit you couldn't keep the promises you made and apologize for it. That doesn't seem like a very high bar to me, but I failed to reach it multiple times. Anyway, that was February 2021 in Hitman. I'll continue to be critical and do videos like this, and I hope if I get something wrong or could improve, you'll call me out on it. Thanks for watching.